I was the last person in our neighborhood who thought my husband would cheat. That's what makes this harder to admit, even now. I wasn't some naive 20-year-old pretending red flags were just decorations. I was 38, had been married 13 years, raised 2 kids, paid bills, survived layoffs, funerals, mortgage scares, all the ordinary little disasters that are supposed to make a marriage stronger. I knew who he was, or at least I thought I did. His name was Ryan. He worked in commercial real estate outside Denver, mostly office developments and leasing. He had the kind of confidence people mistake for honesty. He could look directly into your eyes and make a lie feel like the most reasonable thing in the world. But for most of our marriage, I didn't see that as manipulation. I saw it as charm. The same charm that got me when I was 24 and dumb enough to think being chosen by a man like him meant I had won something. We lived in one of those newer subdivisions, 30 minutes outside the city, the kind with matching mailboxes, identical sidewalks, and couples who smiled through clenched teeth at block parties. Our daughter was 11. Our son had just turned 8. My days were predictable in the way married life becomes predictable when you stop noticing the routine. School drop-offs, work from home, grocery store, soccer practice, dinner, laundry, bedtime, repeat. Ryan had started changing around the end of summer. Not overnight.
That would have been easier. It was the slow kind of change that makes you question your own instincts. He bought new cologne, started going to the gym at 6 in the morning, trimmed his beard differently, bought shirts that were tighter across his chest than anything he'd worn since his early 30s. He said his company was shifting clients, and he wanted to look sharper. That made enough sense for me to let it slide. Then came the phone. He used to leave it anywhere: kitchen counter, bathroom sink, couch cushions. Suddenly, it never left his hand. If he went outside to grill, it went with him. If he showered, it sat face down on the bathroom counter. If he fell asleep, it was under his pillow like a loaded weapon. The first time I asked, he laughed. "You spying on me now?" He said it like a joke, but his smile had edges, sharp ones. I backed off because I hated how quickly he made me feel ridiculous. That was his talent, turning my discomfort into something embarrassing, like I was the unstable one. Still, things didn't add up. He started coming home later, meetings, drinks with clients, networking dinners, the kinds of excuses that sound boring enough to be true. But he'd come in smelling like expensive whiskey and perfume that wasn't mine. Not strong, just enough to catch when he leaned over to kiss my cheek. I told myself I was imagining it.
Because the alternative meant my entire life was built on a lie, and nobody wants to admit that before they absolutely have to. One Thursday night, he came home after midnight. I was sitting in the dark living room pretending to watch TV. He froze when he saw me. "Jesus, Claire, you scared me." That's when I noticed he looked energized, not tired, not guilty. He looked alive. His face had that flushed brightness people get after a secret. He loosened his tie, smiling to himself. "Good meeting?" I asked. He didn't even look at me. "Long one." I watched him walk upstairs, and I knew. I can't explain it any better than that. There's a moment when denial dies. No proof, no confession, just your body recognizing something your mind hasn't caught up to yet. I barely slept that night. The next morning, while he was in the shower, his phone buzzed on the dresser. I stared at it. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I wasn't proud. I wasn't noble. I picked it up. Face ID opened because he'd apparently forgotten it recognized me too from some photo set up months earlier. I opened messages. Nothing. Clean. Too clean. No suspicious texts, no weird names, nothing. My stomach dropped because somehow that felt worse. A man who deletes everything is a man who's been doing this longer than you think. Then another message popped up. No name, just a number. "You still coming Saturday? Same suite. Don't bail this time." I swear my entire body went cold. I read it again. Same suite. Suite hotel. He walked out of the bathroom before I could breathe. I tossed the phone onto the dresser and sat on the edge of the bed like I was folding laundry. He looked at me, towel around his waist, and for 1 second I thought he knew. But he smiled. That smile made me hate him for the first time. Saturday became all I could think about. I considered confronting him. I considered hiring someone. I considered pretending I never saw it and just letting my marriage decay in peace. But every option made me feel weak, like I was waiting for him to decide what happened to my life. So I made a different decision. I said nothing. Saturday afternoon, he kissed me on the forehead and said he had a client dinner downtown.
Important investors from out of state. Might be late. I smiled so naturally I almost scared myself. Have fun. He left at 6. He wore the navy jacket I bought him for our anniversary, the one he'd barely touched until recently. I stood at the front window watching his taillights disappear. Then I called my sister and asked if she could take the kids for a sleepover. She asked if everything was okay. I said yes so fast she paused, then said she'd be there in 20 minutes. By 7:30, I was parked 3 cars behind Ryan in the valet lot of a boutique hotel downtown. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped my keys. He stepped out of his car looking younger than I'd seen him in years. That's what hurt most. He looked excited.
Like a teenager sneaking into something forbidden. He checked his phone, smiled at whatever he read, and walked inside without even looking around, like he'd done this before. I sat there for 10 minutes trying not to throw up. Then I went in. The lobby smelled like polished wood and champagne. Couples everywhere. Soft piano from the bar. The kind of place people go when they want to pretend they're richer than they are. I stayed back. He was at the elevator, texting. Then she appeared. Blonde, maybe 30, maybe younger. Tight black dress, heels, that effortless kind of beauty that looks accidental but costs a fortune. She walked right up to him, touched his chest, and kissed him. Not a hesitant kiss, not the first kiss of an affair. The kind of kiss that had history. He put his hand on her waist like it belonged there, and smiled in a way I hadn't seen in years. Something inside me broke so cleanly it almost felt quiet. They got into the elevator. I stood there in the lobby while people walked around me and laughed and checked in and ordered drinks and lived their normal lives, and mine was ending in real time. I should have gone home. That would have been the smart thing. Cry in the car, call a lawyer Monday, start hiding money. But rage makes you creative. I went to the front desk. I smiled and said my husband had left his wallet in the room. I gave his name. I even laughed like I was a tired wife rescuing her forgetful husband. The girl typed. Then she said the suite number, just handed it to me. I still think about that, how easy it was, how the entire rest of our lives changed because one hotel clerk didn't care enough to verify anything. My legs felt numb in the elevator. I remember looking at my reflection in the mirrored wall. I looked calm, too calm, like I was already detached from my own body. When the doors opened, the hallway was silent. I found the suite. I stood outside. I could hear muffled music, laughter, his laugh. I should have turned around. Instead, I reached for the handle, and it opened, unlocked. I stepped inside, and what I saw in that room destroyed my marriage in less than 10 seconds. Because Ryan wasn't just cheating. He had brought our entire life into that suite to show off. Our money, our vacations, pictures, stories, me, and the woman sitting there knew exactly who I was. She smiled when she saw me, like she'd been waiting. That smile was the moment I realized my husband wasn't the only one lying to me. There was something much worse happening, something that had started long before Saturday night, and I was the last person to know. The first thing I noticed was the photo. It was our family picture from Christmas, the one we took in matching sweaters in front of our fireplace, the one I'd framed and put in Ryan's office because he said it made the place feel less corporate. Somehow, that framed photo was sitting on a glass side table in a hotel suite, next to a bottle of champagne, 2 half-filled wine glasses, and a pair of heels kicked off near the couch. That was the detail that hit hardest. Not the woman, not his hand on her thigh, not the fact he looked like someone had seen a ghost. That photo, my kids' faces smiling back at me from a hotel room where my husband was sleeping with another woman. Ryan stood so fast he nearly knocked over the coffee table. "Claire!" I don't remember crossing the room. I just remember the sound. The slap echoed so loud it cut through the music. He stumbled sideways, hand to his face, shocked more than hurt. The woman didn't move. She just sat there, calm, crossing one leg over the other, like this was a meeting she'd prepared for. That chilled me. A normal woman would panic, pull on her dress, leave, say sorry, something. She didn't even flinch. Ryan looked between us, breathing hard. "What are you doing here?" That sentence, that's what he asked me, in a hotel room with another woman, with my family photo on the table, and somehow I was the one who needed explaining. I laughed. I actually laughed, because once your world shatters enough, everything becomes absurd. You tell me, I said. He looked furious, not guilty, furious, like I had embarrassed him, like I had broken some unspoken rule. The woman finally stood. She was taller than I expected. Elegant in that polished, expensive way. Her hair was perfect, makeup untouched, posture straight, like she was used to people looking at her. She held out a hand toward me like we were being introduced at a fundraiser. I'm Vanessa. I stared at her hand like it was diseased. Ryan snapped. Vanessa, don't. She lowered it, but she smiled again. That same small, knowing smile. And then she said something I'll never forget. You deserve to know eventually. I looked at Ryan. His face changed. It was small, but I saw it. Panic. Real panic. He wasn't afraid I'd caught him cheating. He was afraid she'd say something else. I felt the room shift under my feet. I looked around. Open laptop on the table, a leather portfolio, my family picture. And then I saw another thing that made my skin crawl. A printed sheet. My name typed at the top. Claire Donovan. Underneath were bullet points. Dates, notes, places. It looked like a file. Like a profile. My schedule. My kid's school. My sister's address. The gym I went to on Tuesdays. My chest went tight. I grabbed the paper. Ryan lunged for it, but I stepped back. I scanned it, and every word made less sense than the last. It wasn't random. It was organized, deliberate. Someone had been tracking my life. I looked at him, and my voice came out so low I barely recognized it. What the hell is this? He opened his mouth, closed it. Vanessa answered first. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Ryan exploded. Shut up! He shouted it so violently, even I jumped. He turned to her with pure hatred, and suddenly I understood this wasn't some affair. Or not just that. There was another layer, something uglier. I backed toward the door, clutching the paper. Ryan saw it. He moved toward me. Claire, listen to me. Give me that. And for the first time in 13 years, I was afraid of my husband. Not because I thought he'd hit me, because I realized I had no idea what he was capable of. I ran. He chased me into the hallway. I heard Vanessa yelling behind us. I didn't turn. I sprinted barefoot down that hotel corridor like my life depended on it, because in that moment, it felt like it might. Ryan caught the elevator before the doors closed, grabbing my arm so hard it bruised. Stop acting crazy. Crazy. That word again, his favorite weapon. I yanked free and hit every floor button, all of them. My hand shook so badly I missed some. The elevator stopped twice before the lobby. Every second was unbearable. He kept trying to talk. It's not what you think. I laughed so hard tears came out. What exactly do I think, Ryan? That you're screwing another woman in a hotel with a file on my life? He looked trapped, sweating. His confidence was gone. Then he said the sentence that changed everything. She's with the investors. I stared. He swallowed. This deal, it's complicated. I cut him off. You needed to cheat? No, I needed access. I swear the elevator got colder. He lowered his voice like someone might hear.
The company's under investigation. I'm trying to protect us. She can get information. The affair was part of it. The doors opened. I walked out. He kept following me through the lobby, still talking, still spinning lies, or maybe truths. I couldn't tell anymore. That was the problem. Once someone lies enough, truth sounds exactly the same. Outside, the cold air hit my face like a slap. He grabbed my wrist near valet. Claire, if you leave with that paper, you're making this worse. I stopped. That sentence replayed in my head. Not please, not I'm sorry, not I love you. You're making this worse. Like this nightmare was a business inconvenience. I pulled my hand free. I'm going home. He stepped closer, voice low and dangerous. If you go home, don't call anyone. Do you understand me? I looked at him, really looked at him, and suddenly the man I'd loved for over a decade was gone. Standing in his place was someone I never knew. Someone cold, strategic, selfish. Someone who had spent months, maybe years, building lies around me. I got in my car and locked the doors. He stood outside, banging once on the window, then stopped when people looked. He forced a smile for strangers, that fake suburban charm. Then he stepped back. I drove away. I should have gone to my sister's house. Instead, I went home. I needed to see if what was on that paper was real.
I parked in the driveway and sat there for 5 minutes trying to stop shaking. My phone buzzed nonstop.
Ryan calling, texting, then calling again. I ignored all of it. Inside the house, everything looked normal. Toys by the stairs, backpack near the kitchen island, dishwasher humming. That made it worse. I went straight to his home office. Locked. That office had never been locked. Ever. I grabbed the spare key from the junk drawer. He forgot I knew where he kept it. The room smelled like his cologne and printer toner. I opened the desk drawers. Normal stuff at first. Pens, contracts, old receipts. Then the bottom drawer. Locked too. I found the key taped under the drawer frame. Ryan was always predictable in his arrogance. Inside was a black binder. No label. I opened it and my knees actually gave out. I sat on the floor because I couldn't stand. Page after page. Financial statements I'd never seen. Wire transfers, hotel receipts, photos, copies of IDs. Vanessa's name, other names, people from his company, documents marked confidential. And then a folder labeled personal. My hands were numb opening it. There were photos of me. Not family photos, surveillance photos. Me leaving the grocery store, me outside the gym, me at school pickup. Different clothes, different days. Someone had been watching me. I started crying so hard I couldn't breathe. Not loud, just this horrible silent shaking. I was trying to understand why. Why would my husband need surveillance on me? Then I saw the handwritten note paperclipped to one photo. Her routine is predictable.
If separation becomes necessary, primary custody, outcome favorable. I read it 3 times. Separation becomes necessary, primary custody. I understood then. He was preparing to leave me, not for Vanessa, for money, for something bigger tied to whatever those documents were. He was building a case, creating a story where I looked unstable, predictable, easy to discredit. The late nights, the gaslighting, making me doubt myself. It wasn't random. He was engineering my breakdown. I heard the garage door. Ryan was home. My blood froze. His footsteps entered the house. I shut the binder but kept the note in my hand. My body moved before my thoughts. I grabbed my phone, took pictures of every page I could. Too fast, blurry, panicked, dozens of them. His footsteps were on the stairs. I shoved the binder back. Locked drawer, locked office. Barely closed the door when his voice echoed down the hallway. Claire? I walked out into the hall trying to breathe normally. He stood there, coat off, eyes scanning my face. He knew. Not because he saw anything, because he knew me well enough to see when I was pretending. He smiled. Calm. Too calm. Why are you shaking? I looked at him, and for the first time I lied better than he did. I'm not. He stared another second. Then he smiled and said something that made my stomach turn. Good, because tomorrow we're having dinner with my attorney, and I need you to behave. I didn't sleep that night.
Ryan slept beside me like nothing had happened, one arm behind his head, breathing slow and even, like he hadn't just destroyed everything I thought my life was. I lay on my back staring at the ceiling fan, turning shadows across the room, my phone hidden under the blanket, transferring every photo I took from his binder into a private cloud account he didn't know existed. Every few minutes, I checked to make sure the upload was still running. I wasn't thinking like a wife anymore. I was thinking like prey. That realization made something in me harden. At 3 a.m, Ryan rolled toward me and put a hand on my waist. Casual, familiar, like he still had the right. I nearly flinched. He whispered, half asleep, "You okay?" I almost laughed. The cruelty of that question. I said yes, because I needed him to think I was still confused, still behind. I had no idea what game he was playing, but I knew enough to understand one thing. He was ahead of me, and if he realized I'd caught up, he'd change the rules. At 7, he made coffee like every other Sunday. That routine made me sick. He stood in our kitchen pouring cereal for our son when my sister dropped the kids off, smiling, asking about soccer practice, kissing our daughter on the forehead. Watching him move through normal family life after what I saw felt like living with a stranger wearing my husband's skin. By noon, I had called an attorney from a Target parking lot 20 miles away.
I found her through a recommendation from a woman in my neighborhood whose husband cheated and lost half his business in the divorce. That was enough for me. I needed someone who understood ugly men with money. Her name was Dana Mercer, Mid-50s, sharp voice, no wasted words. She agreed to see me at 4. I told Ryan I was getting groceries. He barely looked up from his phone. Don't forget the kids need snacks for school. That sentence made my hands clench so hard around my keys, my nails cut my palm. Dana's office was downtown, in an old brick building above a coffee shop. She looked exactly like someone you'd hire to dismantle a man's life. Gray suit, silver hair, eyes that missed nothing. I handed her my phone. She spent 15 minutes scrolling through the photos in silence. Her expression changed around photo 12, then again around photo 30. Finally, she looked up. Your husband may be cheating, she said, but that's not what concerns me. My throat tightened. She turned the phone toward me and pointed at one document, a wire transfer statement, one I'd skimmed but didn't understand. Do you know this account? I shook my head. It's offshore, Cayman structure. That's not inherently illegal, but combined with surveillance on you and those notes about custody, she paused. Claire, this looks like asset concealment before a divorce filing. I felt dizzy. Dana leaned back. Or something adjacent to fraud. I'd need a forensic accountant to know more.
I stared at her. My entire life, our savings, our kids' college funds, the mortgage, all of it passed through my head at once. How bad is this? She didn't sugarcoat. If he moved marital assets without disclosure, he's already planning a financial war. And if he documented your routines to shape custody, he expects conflict. Then she asked the question that chilled me. Has he ever encouraged you to seek therapy, medication, anything that could support instability claims? I froze. 3 months earlier, after I cried during an argument about his late nights, he had sat me down and said maybe stress was making me anxious. He'd suggested talking to someone, said I seemed emotional lately, offered to help find a therapist. At the time, it felt supportive. Now, it felt like strategy. Dana saw my face and nodded once. He's building a narrative. I nearly threw up in her office trash can. She gave me instructions, very specific. Do not confront him. Do not let him know I saw an attorney. Do not move money yet. Gather every financial document possible. And most important, copy everything off his devices if possible. Then she said something I'll never forget. Men like this think they're smarter than everyone because no one expects them to be cruel. Let him keep believing that. I went home and acted normal. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. That evening, Ryan was almost affectionate, too affectionate, asking if I wanted wine, offering to order takeout.
Touching my back when he passed. He was managing me, keeping me close enough to monitor. I played along. Then came dinner Monday. His attorney's house was in Cherry Hills, one of those sprawling neighborhoods where every driveway looks like a dealership and every backyard could host a wedding. Ryan drove. He talked casually about school schedules, upcoming vacations, nonsense. His left hand rested on the steering wheel like any ordinary husband, but his eyes kept checking me, testing. When we arrived, I expected some old man in a navy suit. Instead, it was Vanessa. She opened the door herself. I stopped walking. Ryan's hand pressed lightly against my lower back, guiding me forward. To anyone watching, affectionate. To me, a warning. Vanessa smiled. She wore jeans this time, sweater, hair tied back. She looked almost ordinary, like she was trying to make what happened in the hotel disappear. Claire, I'm glad you came. My entire body went cold. Inside, there were no other guests. No dinner, no attorney husband, no clients. Just her. And Ryan had brought me there. I looked at him. He closed the door behind us and locked it. Actually locked it. The sound snapped something primal inside me. I stepped back. What is this? Ryan sighed like I was being dramatic. Sit down. I didn't move. Vanessa walked to the kitchen island and poured herself water, completely calm. That same composure that made everything worse. Then she said, Ryan told me you found the file.
I looked at him. He didn't deny it. He took off his jacket and folded it over a chair, like this was a business meeting. Then he finally stopped pretending. Claire, we need to talk about how this ends. Those exact words. How this ends. No apology, no explanation. I stayed standing. Ryan leaned on the counter. The company's being audited. Some transactions are under review. My name is attached to deals that could become complicated. I need distance between certain assets and certain liabilities. I said nothing because my brain was trying to process how the man I married had started speaking like a criminal in a legal drama. He continued, You and the kids are protected if you cooperate. Protected. That word. Vanessa spoke next. It doesn't have to be ugly.
I laughed because I was honestly close to screaming, "You're sleeping with my husband." She met my eyes. "That's not what this is." Ryan cut in sharply. "Enough." Then he reached into a folder on the counter. My blood froze. He slid a stack of papers toward me. Divorce documents. Pre-drafted. Signed by his attorney. Not filed yet. He'd already done it. He had planned all of this before I ever opened his phone. I flipped through pages, barely breathing. Joint statement, temporary custody proposal, property division. And then I saw the clause. Primary residential custody to father, pending psychological evaluation of mother. My vision blurred. I looked up. Ryan's face was calm. He had practiced this.
He spoke slowly, like explaining terms to a child. "If you sign tonight, we avoid litigation. The kids stay stable. You keep the house. We move money where it needs to go, and everyone survives." I stared at him. Then I understood. He didn't just want a divorce. He wanted my signature to legitimize hidden transfers before authorities looked. He needed me compliant. He needed the wife to validate the story. I said one thing. "What happens if I don't sign?" Silence. Then Ryan smiled. That same smile from years ago when I first met him. The one I used to love. Only now I saw what was underneath. He stepped closer, lowered his voice, and said, "Then everything becomes your fault." My hands were trembling, but not from fear anymore. Because in that exact moment, my phone in my purse was recording everything. Every word. Dana had told me to record if he pressured me. I almost thanked her out loud. I looked down at the papers, then up at him, and I smiled. A real smile. Because for the first time since Saturday, I saw the crack. He thought I was trapped. He thought he controlled the story. He had no idea I had already sent his files to an attorney, backed them to the cloud, and shared them with my sister with instructions to open if anything happened to me. So I picked up the pen. Ryan relaxed, just slightly. Vanessa watched carefully. I signed one page, then another. Ryan exhaled, like he'd won.
And then I turned to the last page, looked directly at him, and asked one question that made all the color leave his face. "Before I sign this one, should I mention the offshore account ending in 7741 to the court, or let the FBI discover it themselves?" The room went dead. Vanessa dropped her glass. Ryan's face changed so fast it almost looked like another person stepped out from inside him. And that was the exact second I knew he was about to do something desperate. Ryan stared at me like he was trying to decide whether I was bluffing. That was the first real silence I'd ever forced on him. He'd always been the one controlling conversations, steering arguments, deciding when something was over. He could redirect blame in under 10 seconds, make me apologize for things he'd done, turn every confrontation into a lecture about my emotions. But that night, standing in Vanessa's kitchen with the divorce papers between us, I finally watched his certainty crack. He looked at Vanessa. That was his mistake. Just a glance. Fast, but enough. She looked terrified, which told me everything. She knew exactly what that account was. She knew this wasn't just cheating. She was tied to whatever mess he had built, and she hadn't expected me to know. Ryan recovered quickly, too quickly. He smiled again, but his eyes were dead now. "You've been snooping." I set the pen down. "You've been stalking me." His jaw tightened. Vanessa stepped in.
"Ryan, maybe we should pause." He turned on her so fast, she shut up immediately. That told me their power dynamic wasn't what I thought. She wasn't running this. She was useful, maybe smart, maybe involved, but Ryan was the one at the center. He looked back at me and softened his voice, trying to rebuild control. "You don't understand what you saw." That line had worked for years. Not anymore. I reached into my purse, pulled out my phone, and placed it on the counter face up. The recording screen glowed between us. I hit stop. His expression changed instantly. I pressed play. His own voice filled the kitchen. "If you sign tonight, we avoid litigation. You keep the house, we move money where it needs to go. Then everything becomes your fault." No context, no explanation, just the exact pieces Dana said would matter. Ryan lunged for the phone. I picked it up before he could reach it, and I said the sentence that ended his control forever. It already uploaded. I watched him process that. He didn't know where, didn't know to whom, didn't know how much I had.
and uncertainty is poison to people who rely on control. For the first time, he looked scared. Real fear. Vanessa whispered, "Ryan." He ignored her. His eyes never left mine. "What do you want?" That question sounds simple, but in that moment, it was the greatest reversal of our marriage. Suddenly, he needed something from me. I could have screamed, thrown the papers, told him I hated him.
Instead, I said exactly what Dana told me to say. I want to go home with my children, tonight, alone. You don't come near us, you don't touch our accounts, and tomorrow morning my attorney contacts yours. He laughed, too loud, fake confidence. You hired an attorney in one day? I smiled. You taught me to prepare. That landed hard. Vanessa looked like she wanted to disappear. Ryan stepped back, then forward again, pacing. His mind was moving too fast to hide. He was calculating how much I knew, whether he could still manipulate it, whether I'd already shared everything. Then his phone rang. He ignored it. It rang again immediately. Vanessa looked at the screen and went pale. She whispered, "You need to answer." He snapped, "Not now." Then it rang a third time. He answered, irritated, turning slightly away. But the moment he listened, his posture changed. He stopped moving. His face drained. He didn't speak for nearly 20 seconds. Then he said quietly, "How many?" My heart started racing because suddenly none of us were talking. He listened again. Then, "Who else knows?" He looked straight at me when he said that. Then he ended the call. The room was silent except for the refrigerator humming. I knew something had shifted, something outside this house, something bigger than us. Ryan stared at Vanessa like he hated her. She backed away. "What happened?" I asked. He laughed once, short and broken. Then he looked at me and said something that still wakes me up. "You just destroyed the timing." Timing. Not my marriage, not our family. Timing. Vanessa spoke, voice shaking. "The auditors were at Keller's office." Ryan's eyes flashed. "Who told them?" She didn't answer. That was enough. He knew. And so did I. Someone had moved before he was ready. Maybe because of me, maybe unrelated. But whatever hidden scheme he'd built was unraveling tonight. He grabbed his keys. I stepped away from the counter, instinctively. He noticed. That pause, seeing me physically recoil from him, did something to his face. He realized I was gone. Whatever version of me he controlled no longer existed. He looked almost sad for 1 second. Then he said, "You should have stayed out of this," and left, just walked out the front door and disappeared into the night. Vanessa stood there shaking. I should have left too, but I turned to her because I needed answers. She sat down heavily at the island, like her knees gave out. I stayed standing. She rubbed her temples and whispered, "I didn't think he'd bring you here." I laughed bitterly. "He brought divorce papers." She looked up, and then she said the thing that made everything finally make sense. "He was supposed to make you sign months ago." My entire body went cold. Months. She explained in pieces, haltingly, like she was trying to protect herself while pretending to help me. Ryan's company had been moving funds through shell accounts tied to developments that didn't fully exist. Inflated valuations, insider information, investors shifting money before public filings. It was white-collar enough to sound boring, but enough money that federal agencies cared. Ryan's role was to move assets before subpoenas widened. The divorce wasn't about love. It was legal insulation. By separating, shifting assets, and framing me as unstable, he could move money under settlement terms and protect portions from seizure. If investigators came, the family breakdown would explain transfers. Shared accounts could disappear into settlements. Homes could change names. I was never a wife in the plan. I was paperwork, a signature, a shield. I felt something inside me turn to ice. Vanessa said she got involved through consulting. Then the affair started. At first it was access, then leverage. Then it became whatever toxic thing people call love when two liars start believing their own stories. She started crying. I didn't. I had no sympathy left. I asked one question. Why were there photos of me? She looked ashamed. Ryan wanted to document patterns, to show emotional instability later, to claim I was erratic, neglectful, maybe cheating. He wanted options. Evidence could be created from routine. My chest hurt so badly I thought I might collapse. Every argument, every time he provoked me,
Every suggestion, I seemed stressed.
Every late-night accusation that I was paranoid, it had all been staged. Years of intimacy turned into strategy. I left without another word. Outside, the night air hit like ice. I drove straight to my sister's house and woke her up. I took the kids without explaining, just packed them into the car in pajamas. My daughter kept asking what happened. I said we were having an adventure. At 2:14 a.m., Ryan called 23 times. At 2:36, Dana called me. She never called that late unless it mattered. Her first words were, "Do not go back to your house." My stomach dropped. She spoke fast. Federal agents had served warrants at Ryan's office and 2 partner homes. One executive was already cooperating. Phones were seized, accounts frozen. News would break by morning. Then she said the part that froze my blood. Ryan left Vanessa's house 20 minutes ago. He withdrew $40,000 cash from a branch kiosk before systems locked. His phone is now off. I gripped the steering wheel, so hard my fingers cramped. Where is he? She was silent for 1 second too long. Then she said, "We don't know." I looked in my rearview mirror. Headlights turned onto my sister's street. Slow, then stopped across from the house, engine running. My heart stopped, because even from that distance, I recognized my husband's car, and he was just sitting there, watching.